Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop. Got a little bit of redo work to do. Yeah, I got a return. This came back for more work. This is the Sam Bush model mandolin that we put a new fingerboard on, and well, actually it's not a new fingerboard. We're trying to straighten the neck. It had an underbow in it, a very significant underbow, and we straightened it out a lot. It still has a little bit of underbow in it, and the customer is not happy with that. I have a feeling if I hadn't called that out in the video, I don't think he'd have really noticed it, because there's not much of an underbow in this. Me personally, I could play this for the rest of my life. It wouldn't bother me at all, but yeah, there you go. So here it is, and we're going to try to make it just as flat as a pancake, and we'll see how that goes. I thought the truss rod I put in there with the underbow would pull it out. Apparently it did not. You know, you put these things together. See, you think that you're going to know everything, and you don't. It's just the way it is. You know, it had a pretty significant underbow in it, and I put it in there, and I tightened up the truss rod. Well, it pulled out most of it, but it didn't pull it all out. And I don't think it's going to pull out the rest. I've loosened the strings on this. This has been sitting for a couple of weeks now, several weeks actually, and with the strings loose. And I'm going to see if I can tighten the truss rod anymore. I don't think it'll let me, but you know, always try to do the simple thing first. Fits it, and I don't think it's going to let me tighten it though. No, I don't think so. It's so close to flat that it just seems a shame to try to take the whole thing apart. I'm really thinking at this point I may, instead of taking it apart, I may just sand through it on the top. He wants bigger frets in this anyway. I remember him saying that. With the bigger frets and a little bit of work on this, I really think we can make it as flat as a pancake. I'm not charging him for the flattening part, but when I start putting the new frets in, I am going to charge him for that, because typically that's a modification. That's not fixing what I did. It's not very badly bowed. I'm trying to tell you how much it is. It's not very much. I guess we'll just have to take the strings off of it to really tell. There's not much of an underbow in it. But I really think, at this point, I really think the best way to handle it is to just flatten it out here, not take it apart. The truss rod I have in there is tight, and it should keep it from ever underbowing again. I really feel like that should do its job. It's just that I think we just need to plane through this and flatten it out a little bit. And it won't take much. I mean, it probably sounds to you like I'm going to take off a ton of wood. I'm not. I'm talking about a few thousandths at this end, a few thousandths at that end, and it'll be pretty much flat. And thousandths is the thickness of a hair. Lay a hair down on a table and you'll see how much I'm talking about taking it off. Maybe two thicknesses, you know, two hairs. So anyway, it's not going to be much. And I really do think you should do the easy thing and simple thing, and not the complicated and really destructive thing whenever you can do that. And that's what I intend to do right now. But let's just see if that will work for me. I'll know more when I get the strings off of it, and I'll show you that here in a minute. You can see I wrapped tape around the bridge, and so it wouldn't scratch the top. I wrapped it around there, and then I taped it here. And that's because it's got a pickup that goes inside, and there's no point taking all of that out. That would be kind of silly. So I am going to take these frets out, but first let's see if we can try to get a measurement so that we have some basis of comparison. I guess the best thing is to try to use this. This only goes down to 10 thousandths, so I don't even know if 10 thousandths will go under there, but let's see if it will. It might. It's not even 10 thousandths. There's an underbow, but it's not much. Even when it's strung up, it's not much. Yeah, I really feel like I put that in the customer's mind. Like, see, that'll go under there, but that's like a few thousandths. That's only 3 or 4 thousandths thick, or maybe 5 thousandths. It's not even that much. Like that will go under there, but just barely. So let's see how thick that is. I mean, like if you were using a feeler gauge, that would be tight. So that is, well, it says it's 10 thousandths. But I can't get this to start under there, and this is 10 thousandths, so I don't know. It may be picking itself up. But the bottom line is 10 thousandths is nothing. You take 5 thousandths off on this side, 5 thousandths off on this side, and you're going to be pretty much flat. It's not going to be noticeable at all, I don't think. So I think that's the best way to go, since he wants new frets in this. That'll save all kinds of time, and it'll accomplish it. And then if there is even the slightest little bit of underbow after that, because there'll be taller frets, we can file through the frets on the ends if that is necessary, and they'll be perfectly flat. So we should be good to go. Okay, I've got some medium guitar fret wire here, which is 80 wide and 40 tall, and that should fit the bill. Well, this is actually what they call narrow medium, so it's a little smaller than your standard medium guitar fret wire, but it's considerably bigger than the wire that's in here, because this is just your standard mandolin fret wire. I'm wetting this down, and the reason I'm doing that is to soften the fibers in the ebony so that it doesn't chip out so bad. I'm also going to use heat and try to take it out without causing too much damage. This little soldering gun really works well for heating up these frets. There's been a few people say, oh, it doesn't spread the heat out or something like that, but I've got news for you. You really don't know anything about these guns if that's what you think. These guns are crazy hot, and they're crazy hot fast. So they'll be just fine. Puts a lot of heat in there, and it puts it in there very quickly, and I can actually see the water drying up right there as I heat this up. That came out pretty well. Gonna have to keep the water here because it dries it up pretty fast. Again, I'm going to try to split the difference on the cost here. Since this is a return, I don't generally charge for fixing things, but when you modify it, that's a different story. I mean, I don't charge for doing rework, if you will. If I have to do something over, I don't charge for that. But that's if I keep everything the same. Putting different frets in it, that's a different story. That's a modification to me. And yeah, you would say, well, it's the same amount of work if I had kept the same frets. Yeah, that's true, it is. But, you know, how am I going to know the difference? People can always send something back and modify it, and I'm supposed to carry the cost. I don't think that works that way. This is getting hot very quickly, and so far they're coming out fairly well. No matter how good they come out, you always kind of want them better, but that's pretty good. They're coming out pretty well. And in case you're one of those who thinks this swells the wood up, wood doesn't swell lengthwise. It doesn't expand lengthwise. It expands widthwise. So if it does anything, it would make it a little wider, but it's not enough to do that. We're not soaking the whole thing. We're just soaking these top fibers so they don't bust out. Soak a little bit ahead of where I'm at so that they have time to get soft. They're coming out very well, so can't complain about that. There's always a little bit of chip out. I don't care how good it is, they always do a little bit. And this is doing a little bit, but not very much. These nippers, I just made them out of a set of end nippers. Just ground off the ends to a perfectly flat face, and they work great for getting under here. And they're the small ones. I don't like the big ones. I like the small ones because I can, you know, work on one little spot and keep the pressure there. They work better than if you take a long one, plus you got an arch fretboard on a long, with the big ones, it just doesn't fit well. This will fit just about any fretboard out there. That's why I like these little ones. More than likely I'll have to make a new nut for this with these new taller frets, which is not my favorite thing to do, but like I said, that's part of the charge. That won't be free. Okay, it's all out of there. You know, because it's wet now, I'll probably need to give it some time to dry and before I go sanding and flattening it out some more. I used a little space heater to heat this up and dry it out, so I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead. I've also triple checked it here, and I'm going to try to show you a close-up that we're not talking about much. I mean, it's so minimal, you know. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and flatten that out and make it just as perfect as we can make it. I like to emphasize that, again, I didn't create the problem with this mandolin. I'm just trying to fix it, and he's had 3 other shops work on it at least, and they were not able to get it done. I feel like I've improved it significantly, but it's still got a little bit of an issue. It's not much of an issue now, but there's a little bit. So I've got my little rubber pad sanding block here, and I'm just going to start by working back here. I can tell that the very back of this flips up, and that's what gives it a lot of the underbow look. And a very light sanding through here, but that's mostly for the uniformity of it and to blend it. I doubt we've got it sanded completely out yet, but it's got to be fairly close, I would think, or at least improved. So I'm going to clean this off and see what it looks like now. And the truth is, I can still see under it a little tiny bit. Man, it's so small, it's not even funny. I'm pretty sure the paper will not go under it now. Yeah, not even start under there. Let me get a thinner piece of paper than that. This is just regular printer computer paper. Let's see. That's 3/1000 of an inch. 3/1000. I don't even think this will go under there. But it might, I don't know. Yeah, it does. It does. It goes under there. No problem. So it goes under there from there to about here. Like I said, it's high on the ends, but that's just barely going under there too, by the way. It's not like it's got a lot of room. It's tight. It fits under there pretty snugly. So I think we'll just keep sanding a little bit and we'll knock her down, I'm pretty sure. I think there's a slight radius to this fingerboard. I don't know, I'm not 100% sure of that actually. It's not very much of a radius if there is one. Anyway, I'm trying to make sure that I maintain the profile it has. I'm not trying to add profile to it by keeping the sander moving from side to side. I'm going to kind of do this in sections here. The treble side, I've got the ruler on now, and it still just will go under it in a place or two. On the bass side, still about the same. It's even tighter than it was, I can tell. Still going under it in the middle, so it's still got the problem. Not very badly, but it's still got the problem. Each one of them gets a little bit better. testing this on camera. I did a preliminary poke here and I didn't get anything going anywhere. It's not going through at all now. Well, actually right there it's going through. It's only going through in that little tiny spot right now. Yeah, right there. The bass side seems to be a little worse. There you go. So the treble side's almost perfectly flat except for that one little spot. Well, I will say this thing had a little bit more twists and turns than I thought it did. It's not so bad that we still can't get it flat. I went ahead and just put some sandpaper on this flat level, and it's got a good flat edge. This just helps me maintain the flatness over the length and knock off any high spots, because this, I gotta be honest, it's got a lot of whoopties to it. I think the whole neck did. I kind of thought I had that flattened out, but apparently not enough. And of course the fretboard's just glued down to the neck, so whatever the neck has crooked is going to show up in the top too. But I think we're getting very, very close. It like I said, the paper barely goes under it at all. And if there's anything left after we get the frets in it, and keep in mind the frets themselves will actually give it a slide over bow. I think once we get the frets back in it, if there's anything left, we should be able to file it out. It should be absolutely perfect for the customer. Let's see if that improved it any. Each time you file it a little bit, and I'm not taking off that much, each time you do a little bit, it seems to improve it a little bit more. So still seems like right there at the 3rd fret, it's got a little bit of just a teeniest amount. Not even sure that's enough to care about, but there's something there. Same way here, and it seems like it's a little bit more on the bass side. So we'll work a little bit more on the bass side, a little bit more up in here yet. I'd like to get it as flat as a pancake for the fella so that we don't have any further issues. I still see a teeny tiny bit of light, I gotta be honest. There's like a ski ramp at the very back there, and it's so minor. I mean, we're really talking just a couple thousandths of an inch, but it's there, so I think I'll work on that some more. It really looks, when I look down it like this, I'm looking down it by eye, it looks really good. It's a little hard to even tell, it's so glassy looking now because it's so smooth. Well, I tell you what I think the problem is now. I think it's right here at the nut. When I set it back a little ways, I see no light at all. No light at all, anywhere. So it looks like it's just mounted up right there at the nut where I can't get to that end very well. So I guess I'm probably going to have to take the nut out of it. Either that, or maybe I can do it a different way. You know, hopefully I won't have to make a new nut. I bet I do though. Well, that's looking pretty good. I wouldn't call it perfect, but it's getting better. Yeah, in hindsight, what I should have done was I should have knocked this support here. This support should have come down a little bit. It comes up to about right the body line, and then it kind of lifts. Yeah, there's no play in that. That's down. I'm just checking to make sure it's not loose or something. But I mean, we've just about filed through it now, so there's not much left at this point. On the treble side there, I see nothing now. Really don't see anything on the middle now. Let's see about on the bass side. That's about as good as it's going to get, I think. So I'm just looking down it. I don't want to get in any hurry and then have him not be satisfied again. I want to make sure it's right. It's pretty dang good. I don't see how it could be much better. I know I wouldn't have any problem with it if it was my own. But again, I'm telling you, and it's just the truth, musicians are the pickiest people on the planet. Absolutely the pickiest. You just really don't know until you know musicians. Your average person would play this and go, wow, this is perfect. But not a picky musician. That's just not the way they are. Yeah, I'm looking at it every way I can look at it now. It looks just as flat as a pancake now. I'm trying to see if I see any light under it, and I don't see any light there on the treble side. In the middle, yeah, I don't know, I might see a tiny bit, but it's so minimal that it's not even funny. So I think we're good. We can, whatever's left now, if there is anything left, we should be able to file through it on the frets, and you won't even notice it. It'll be recrowned and rounded, and nobody will ever know anything. I mean, it's really pretty dang good. Guarantee you, it's better than it's ever been, at least in the last 20 or 30 years, whenever this thing was built, last 15, 20 years. A Sam Bush model, I don't know how old they really, or when they actually started, I didn't look it up, but anyway, it's probably one of the earlier ones. Looking pretty good though, so we're going to clean her up now, put the frets back in it, and I'll show you the next step after we get the frets in it. Using my homemade roller here to put a radius in this fret wire. It's always nice to have a little radius in it. It keeps the ends down a little bit better when you're driving them in and stuff. A fairly steep radius is not bad when you're trying to put them in, even on a flat board. It's not a bad thing to have a good radius there. Okay, so from this point forward, I'm actually going to start the clock on this, because the rest of this is all modification in my opinion. Well, I decided to go ahead and show you a few of the frets going in, but I've shown this so many times I'm not going to show a whole lot of it. I nipped off the tang on this end. Now I got to nip off the tang on this end, because the top of the fret wire has to extend out over the binding. That should work. So I'll just take my plastic hammer. Well, it's kind of rocking there. I may want to put more radius in this. I think I'm going to need more radius. You can see I put a much tighter radius in there. That's going to make them drive in a lot better. There's more radius in this fingerboard than it appears like, and so what I'm going to do is take this first fret out because I'm not happy with it. It's just a little bit too flat, and I don't know if I can radius it at this point or not. Probably not. I'll just start over and throw that one away. We'll have to get this over here. We'll notch this one again, lay it on there, cut it off to length. Yeah, you could do it faster. There's no question you can do this faster. I know that. I know how I could do it faster. I just don't really get in any big hurry, and this will be just fine, and I don't waste any fret wire. And that's a lot more radius that fits it much better. And that looks pretty tight. Little bit not tight on the one end there, but it's getting there. I think I can fix that. I think that'll be fine. Just because I don't want to have any further issues, I'm going to radius this just a little bit more yet. To tell if you have enough radius, you can lay it across there and you should be able to see that it's high in the middle, and it is. It was the last time, but I just feel like a little bit more. Like I said, it's better to have too much radius, or more radius than you need when you're putting these fret wires in. It makes the ends stay down better. I just went with a little bit more here because I think it'll make it easier. I like to do this on the edge of my table because I can leave that fret wire hang down under the table, then measure this like so, cut it off, and then go on to the next piece. Of course, we'll be driving this one in, but this bigger wire, it definitely is more difficult to keep down in there if the radius is not tight. But anyway, you can see the process. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of it off camera. That went very well. Didn't take too long. And when I looked down at my eye, that fretboard appears to be as flat as a pancake. So it looks really good. I don't see any future problems. It's still not done. It's a long way from done, in fact, but I do have all the frets in. I am actually going to CA glue the frets in because they didn't feel like they went in overly tight. They just went in snug, if you will, and especially these first couple, they don't feel very tight. The rest of them back through from about here back, they felt pretty good, but these through the playing area, they all felt kind of loose, to be perfectly truthful. And that's not good because that allows underbow like that. You know, you want those frets to go in tight so that that actually keeps the fretboard flat. I mean, they went in snug. I don't think there's a problem, but if I fill them with CA glue, that'll help. That'll help keep the space a little bit, plus it'll keep the fret ends down a little bit. These are a little bit loosey up on these first three especially. The rest of them not too bad. So I'm going to do most of that off camera. If I see anything that I think you'll be interested in, I'll show it to you. It's the next day on the setup of this instrument. Off camera, I think I CA glued these frets in, especially up to about here it looks like. So I CA glued all these frets down. That way we won't have any issues with them lifting or anything later. You know, in addition, I think that CA glue will take up more of the space down inside there and keep this neck from doing an underbow again. You know, anytime you've got loose space up here, that can allow that neck to pull up like this. Believe it or not, that makes a lot of difference. Whenever you're putting frets in a flat fretboard on a flat table, as you start driving them in, that fretboard will automatically bow like this. Instead of being flat, it'll actually bow like that and have an overbow in it. So this is important, and these first several were very loose, and so I think the CA glue will help with that too. Anyway, all that to say, I've also then off camera leveled the ends of all the frets, and I've kind of beveled them and all that with the flat file. I also sanded the edges here and tried to make them smooth. Now that I've got them pretty close, I'm going to round the ends of them off with this round over file, and this is a medium file. I might have to go to the bigger file because these are fairly large frets, but I'll make that decision as I get started here. I haven't started that part yet. Now that feels pretty good. As long as I can feel the end and I don't feel anything, this really is the last step for me. Now a lot of people might do this first, but I find that doing this last is better for me. I get a much smoother end. I don't get any feel that there's a problem at all. I've done it both ways, and man, it just feels like glass smooth there now. But right, all these up through here, you can feel something pulling and hurting on you. You know, you can just feel them grabbing your finger. But once you do this, then that all goes away. You kind of rotate this around on these ends like this. This is not the time when you want to try to keep everything perfectly still. You want to move it around and kind of almost rotate it like a ball on the end. And you will be surprised how that really does make them smooth. You can't even feel them. I swear, there's nothing there really. It just makes them nice as it can be. Now the tricky part is when you get up here, you got to be careful because you can create damage. So I usually put something down, or my finger or something like that, so I don't accidentally go too far. Now I got to turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. Now I still have not leveled the frets, and I haven't cleaned up the fretboard either. So I still got a long ways to go. And then once I do that, then I have a feeling I'm going to have to make a new nut anyway, because I'm pretty sure this nut's not going to be tall enough with these new taller frets. In case you don't think that's removing anything, you can probably see the dust right there that it came off of there. So it does take off quite a bit, just doing those ends even. That feels really good. Never hurts to hit them again a little bit with sandpaper after you're done like that. Feels real nice. Okay, we can move on to the next step, which is, you know, the first thing you have to do when you put new frets in is you got to level them. You may think they're level when you drive them in, but you're wrong. They're never level. I'm just looking to see if I'm hitting them all. Looks like I'm hitting them all. Little spot of two in a place or two. I don't need to take a lot off this, just need to get them where they're all touching. Feels like this fret here is pretty high. Yeah, I think we got one fret that didn't seat well enough or something. I may have to look at that one a little bit, see if I can't drive it down in there a little bit more. The important thing is you got to keep this thing moving. I'll clean that up and I'll show you the next step. Well, I've recrowned all the frets with the recrowning tool, and I've sanded them down with 600 sandpaper so that they're really smooth and slick. And now I'm just going through and cleaning up the CA glue and just trying to make the fretboard look brand new again. And feeling pretty good. I don't know, I guess I should go ahead and try to put strings on it. Odds are I'm gonna have to make a new nut, but I don't know that for sure. Probably will though. Don't see how I could avoid it, but might get lucky, you just never know. So I think what I'll do first though is I want to do a little bit more detail on this. You know, I had made this new binding for this. I'm going to go ahead and put some brushing lacquer, I think, on this binding. I'm also going to dye a little spot here I see that could be cleaned up. So I'm just going to do a little extra cleanup work on this that I don't really think I have to do, but I think it would be nice. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Well, I got the strings on this and I'm tuning it up, and to my surprise so far it's not buzzing. I am totally amazed at that. So it may be I won't have to make a new nut. Yeah, we won't know till we know, but right now it's looking good. So far, it's maybe okay. I'm going to have to look at it and do some more detailed examination. It may be the action's a little too high. It's not terrible. It's almost holding the pick at the 12th fret, which is pretty good. It is holding it for sure at the 7th fret, and that's acceptable, I believe. I'll do some more off-camera looking at this and deciding, because I don't want to make any rash decisions. If we need a new nut, I want to make one. But right now, I'm totally amazed. It doesn't look like we really need one. Well, I've let the mandolin sit under tension for a few hours, and I wanted to double check the action here. And actually, the action is high. I would never have believed that. But then after I got to studying what I did, you know, I knocked it down at this end and I knocked it down at this end to make it flat. And now it's, you know, that by knocking it down here at this end, that compensated for these taller frets. So, you know, I guess that's the reason, and I'll take it because it's working just real nice. I'm going to go ahead and lower this down a little bit just so it plays even a little bit better. Well, you can see what I'm doing there. I'm going to go ahead and get this tight all the way across. It's definitely high. I'm really surprised, but I'll get that all straightened out and then we'll play it for you. Well, I got the mandolin to hold a pick at all the different strings, and it's perfect. I really would never have believed I wouldn't have had to put a new nut in this. So that one surprised even me. It's very flat. It looks really good to me. I mean, I don't see how it could be any better. If I had to criticize the mandolin on anything, it's that the neck angle itself could be steeper. It's not a very steep neck angle on this mandolin. And you can see that even the foot of the bridge has been cut way down, and I didn't do that, somebody else did that. But you can see that it was cut way down in order to get the strings low enough. Yeah, it's the mandolin, I don't know, this one just seemed to be riddled with all kinds of issues, but it's got a great sound. It's a really good sounding mandolin. Got a real nice deep tone to it. Yeah, it's got a nice tone to it. Like I said, the only thing I would fault it for is the neck angle. It's got a little bit too flat of a neck angle. If the neck angle on this was set up a little steeper, boy, this thing would really punch then. It'd have more pressure on the top, you know. The action back here at the, there's the 7th fret, I guess it is. But it's not bad the way it is. I mean, it'll keep up with just about any mandolin around, so yeah, that's all you can ask for. You know, 10th, 11th, it starts to lose at about the 10th there. So right about to the 10th fret, it's about to the 10th fret there, it's holding the pick. Which is just, you know, I mean, it's a medium, or well, I guess you'd call it a heavy pick, but it's only like, I don't know, 40-some thousandths. It's about a little over 1 millimeter, so it's not quite 50 thousandths. So anyway, that's pretty low action.